Who really runs the world? Is it governments, the market, or global elites? The answer is complex. It's a tapestry woven from political ideology, economic might, and the collective will of the people. From city streets to corporate boardrooms, the struggle for power plays out globally. To understand who controls the world, we must delve beneath the surface and into the intricate machinery of our globalized society. Join us as we explore the hidden levers of influence in the individuals and institutions that hold the reins of authority. This isn't just about politics or economics, it's about understanding the forces that shape our lives, freedoms, and future. It's about asking tough questions, challenging the status quo, and empowering ourselves to become active participants in the global conversation. Beneath the daily barrage of news lies a deeper truth, a web of interconnected systems and power dynamics. To grasp who controls the world, we must look beyond the superficial and delve into the structures shaping our reality. The global economic system, a network of trade, finance, and investment, transcends national borders. From Wall Street to Shenzhen, the flow of capital and goods connects us all. Who are the architects of this system? Multinational corporations, international financial institutions, or technology? The truth is nuanced, with power often diffuse, exercised through a complex interplay of actors and interests. The lines between governments, corporations, and individuals are increasingly blurred. The choices we make, both individually and collectively, have profound consequences for the future. We live in an era of unprecedented interconnectedness. Globalization, fueled by technology and profit, has created a world where borders feel increasingly porous. Goods, services, and information flow freely across continents, connecting us in unimaginable ways. This interconnectedness has brought tremendous benefits but also new challenges and exacerbated inequalities. Decisions made in distant capitals or boardrooms can have ripple effects felt globally. The 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the fragility and interconnectedness of our systems. To understand who controls the world, we must grapple with the complexities of our interconnected reality. Power is no longer confined to nation-states but is dispersed among multinational corporations, international organizations, and individuals with technology and influence. The choices we make, both individually and collectively, have never mattered more. We encounter a network of institutions with immense influence. These are the technocrats and economists who preside over the global financial system. Organizations like the IMF and World Bank wield immense power in shaping the economic destinies of nations. Founded post-World War II, their influence has grown over decades. Today they play a pivotal role in setting economic policies, particularly in developing countries. They provide loans and assistance, often with strict conditions attached. Critics argue these measures exacerbate inequality and undermine national sovereignty. Understanding their role is crucial to comprehending global control. At the heart of the global financial system lies debt. Debt fuels investment, consumption, and growth, but can also create ruin. For those who control capital, debt is a tool of power. The ability to lend money and impose conditions gives creditors enormous leverage. The global debt architecture includes central banks, commercial banks, and international financial organizations. At the apex sits the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, coordinating global monetary policy. The BIS has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. Its secretive meetings fuel suspicions of serving powerful financiers. The rise of sovereign wealth funds further complicates the power dynamics of the global debt system. For developing countries, debt can become a trap, perpetuating poverty and dependence. Large debts force countries to divert resources from essential services to debt repayment. This hinders long-term development and entrenches their position in the global economic hierarchy. The 1980s debt crisis in Latin America and Africa showed the devastating consequences of unsustainable debt. Harsh austerity measures led to economic stagnation, social unrest, and political instability. Developing countries continue to grapple with high levels of debt, exacerbated by volatile commodity prices, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Private lending with less favorable terms raises concerns about a new wave of debt distress. The IMF, World Bank, and BIS influence extends beyond finance. Their policies shape social, political, and environmental landscapes. Structural adjustment programs often lead to job losses, environmental degradation, and erosion of social safety nets. Privatization of essential services results in higher prices and reduced access for the poor. Deregulation paves the way for corporate exploitation and environmental damage. The emphasis on export-oriented growth often comes at the expense of domestic food security and sustainable development. The economic system is about power, influence, and values. Understanding this system allows us to challenge its assumptions and envision a more just and sustainable future. To comprehend the global battle of ideologies, we must journey back to the French Revolution. In 1789, the terms right and left emerged in the political lexicon. Supporters of the monarchy sat on the right, while those championing radical change sat on the left. This seating arrangement gave rise to a political dichotomy that shapes our world today. The French Revolution ignited a debate about power, government, and freedom. It was a clash of political systems and fundamental values. On the right, the emphasis was on individual liberty and limited government. Inspired by thinkers like John Locke and Adam Smith, the right advocated for free markets and individual rights. On the left, the focus was on social justice and equality. Inspired by thinkers like Rousseau and Marx, the left argued for government regulation and wealth redistribution. This internal debate within the left and right continues to shape the political landscape today. The right champions individual liberty as its core principle. From laissez-faire economics to modern libertarian movements, the right argues for minimal government interference. They believe the free market is the most efficient mechanism for creating wealth. This emphasis on liberty often tolerates social and economic inequality. Proponents argue inequality is a natural consequence of individual differences. They believe wealth redistribution stifles innovation and investment. This tension between liberty and equality defines right-wing thought. The internal debate within the right shapes the political landscape today. The left champions social justice as its raison d'etre. From socialist to progressive movements, the left fights for equality and the rights of marginalized groups. They believe true freedom cannot exist in a society with privilege and poverty. Critics argue excessive government intervention leads to economic inefficiency and stifles individual initiative. They believe creating an environment for businesses to thrive helps the poor. This debate between social justice and individual liberty defines left-wing thought. The internal debate within the left shapes the political landscape today. Section 4. Beyond the binary. The evolving spectrum of ideas. The traditional dichotomy of right and left, while useful as a starting point, often fails to capture the complexities of contemporary political thought. In the 21st century, the political landscape has become increasingly fragmented, with new ideologies emerging and traditional lines blurring. The rise of globalization, technological advancements, and the interconnectedness of global challenges have forced us to rethink old assumptions and consider new possibilities. For example, the issue of climate change has scrambled traditional political alliances, with some on the right embracing environmental conservation while some on the left resist solutions that they perceive as harmful to economic growth or individual liberty. Similarly, the rise of populism, fueled by economic anxiety and cultural resentment, has challenged the established order on both the right and the left, blurring the lines between traditional ideologies. In this increasingly complex world, it is more important than ever to move beyond simplistic labels and engage in nuanced and respectful dialogue. Rather than viewing the world through the lens of a binary divide, we must recognize the diversity of perspectives and the potential for common ground. The challenges we face, from climate change to economic inequality to global pandemics, require collaborative solutions that transcend ideological boundaries. Section 5. A world divided, right versus left in the 21st century. Despite the blurring of lines and the emergence of new ideologies, the fundamental tension between right and left persists in the 21st century. From the halls of power to the streets of our cities, the battle between these competing visions of society continues to rage. The rise of social media, with its echo chambers and filter bubbles, has arguably exacerbated this divide, making it more difficult to bridge the gap between competing perspectives. In many ways, the world today feels increasingly polarized. From the culture wars that dominate our headlines to the rise of nationalist movements across the globe, the forces of division seem to be ascendant. The COVID-19 pandemic, far from uniting us in a shared sense of vulnerability, has further deepened these divisions, fueling conspiracy theories, eroding trust in institutions, and exacerbating existing inequalities. In this environment of heightened polarization, it is more important than ever to remember that we are all part of the same human family. Despite our differences in ideology, background, or beliefs, we share a common destiny on this planet. The challenges we face are too complex and interconnected to be solved through division and animosity. It is only through dialogue, empathy, and a willingness to listen to each other that we can hope to build a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for all. Section 1. The Illusion of Choice. We often hear that we live in a democracy, a system where the people hold the ultimate power. But what if this is just an illusion, a narrative masking a deeper truth, that real power lies beyond our ballots and protests? Consider the revolving door between government and the private sector, where politicians and regulators often move seamlessly between public service and lucrative corporate positions. This cozy relationship raises uncomfortable questions about whose interests are truly being served. While governments may hold the reins of formal authority, it is increasingly clear that corporations wield an immense and often invisible hand in shaping our world. These behemoths of the global economy, with their vast wealth, global reach, and relentless pursuit of profit, often operate with a level of autonomy and influence that rivals and in some cases surpasses that of nation-states. Consider the tech giants of Silicon Valley, companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, and Facebook, which have become deeply embedded in our daily lives. These companies control the platforms we use to communicate, the information we consume, the products we buy, and even the thoughts we think. Their algorithms shape our online experiences, filter the news we see, and target us with personalized advertising, often without our conscious awareness. Beyond the tech sector, multinational corporations in industries like finance, energy, and pharmaceuticals exert enormous influence over government policy through lobbying, campaign contributions, and revolving door appointments. They use their financial clout to shape regulations, secure favorable trade deals, and minimize their tax burdens, often at the expense of workers, consumers, and the environment. This corporate grip on power is further strengthened by the increasing globalization of production and finance. With supply chains spanning continents and financial markets operating 24/7, corporations have become adept at playing countries off against each other, seeking out the lowest wages, the weakest environmental regulations, and the most favorable tax havens. This race to the bottom often leaves workers and communities vulnerable to exploitation, while governments struggle to regulate corporations that operate beyond their borders. As technology advances at an exponential pace, we are witnessing the emergence of a surveillance state of unprecedented reach and sophistication. Governments around the world, often in collaboration with private corporations, are developing and deploying powerful tools to monitor, track, and control their citizens, often in the name of security or national interest. From facial recognition software that can identify individuals in crowds, to mass data collection programs that hoover up our online activities, the tools of surveillance are becoming increasingly pervasive and intrusive. Governments are using these tools to track suspected criminals, monitor dissidents, and suppress dissent, often with little transparency or accountability. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated these trends, providing a pretext for governments to expand their surveillance powers in the name of public health. Contact tracing apps, while potentially useful in containing the spread of the virus, also raise concerns about privacy and data security, as governments and corporations gain access to sensitive personal information. Moreover, the convergence of artificial intelligence and surveillance technology creates new and potentially chilling possibilities for social control. AI-powered systems can analyze vast amounts of data to identify patterns, predict behavior, and even assess emotions, potentially leading to a world where our every move is monitored, analyzed, and judged by algorithms. In the face of these formidable forces, it's easy to feel powerless, like pawns in a game controlled by others. But history shows ordinary people rising up to challenge the powerful and demand change. From the French Revolution to the Arab Spring, people power is a potent force. The 21st century has seen inspiring movements for social justice, from the Arab Spring uprisings to the Black Lives Matter protests and the #MeToo movement. These movements, often fueled by social media, have shown the power of collective action. However, these movements face significant challenges. Governments and corporations use surveillance and propaganda to suppress dissent. Social media, while powerful, also spreads disinformation. The question of control remains contested. Corporate power, government surveillance, and global elites are formidable, but the power of the people should never be underestimated. The struggle for a just, equitable, and sustainable world continues, and its outcome depends on our choices, actions, and solidarity. Behind every powerful movement, every seismic shift in the global landscape, there are individuals who shape the narrative, who embody the ideals, who inspire or incite the masses. These are the leaders, the ideologues, the revolutionaries, and reformers who, for better or worse, leave their indelible mark on history. Their faces stare back at us from history books, their words echo through the halls of power. Their actions continue to shape the world we live in today. To understand the forces that govern our world, we must understand the individuals who have shaped those forces. We must grapple with their motivations, their ideologies, their triumphs, and their failures. We must ask ourselves, what drove these individuals to seek power? What were their visions for the future, and what were the consequences of their actions, both intended and unintended? This is not about hero worship or demonization, but about understanding the complexities of human nature and the motivations that drive individuals to embrace certain ideologies and pursue certain goals. It's about recognizing that history is not merely a series of events, but a tapestry woven from the choices, actions, and legacies of countless individuals. Some celebrated, some reviled, but all leaving their mark on the world stage. By studying the lives and legacies of these influential figures, we can gain a deeper understanding of the ideological battles that have shaped our world and the enduring power of ideas to inspire, to divide, and to transform. The political right, often associated with conservatism and free markets, has been shaped by influential figures throughout history. From monarchs to philosophers to captains of industry, these individuals have left an indelible mark on the ideology. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1979 to 1990. Her staunch conservatism and belief in free markets made her a polarizing figure. Thatcherism had a profound impact on British society and beyond. Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of the United States, believed in American exceptionalism. His presidency, marked by tax cuts and deregulation, contributed to the fall of the Soviet Union. Milton Friedman, a Nobel laureate, championed free market capitalism. His ideas have profoundly impacted global economic policy. These figures have shaped the political right, influencing governments and economies worldwide. Section 3. Architects of the Left, from Revolution to Reform. The political left, often associated with social justice and economic equality, has been shaped by diverse figures. From Karl Marx's revolutionary ideas to Nelson Mandela's fight against apartheid, their legacies inspire movements and challenge the world to envision a more just future. Figures like Bernie Sanders continue to bring leftist ideas into mainstream discourse. Their enduring impact reminds us of the power of ideas to inspire and transform. Section 1. The Sleeping Giant Awakens. For much of history, the masses, the everyday citizens caught in the machinery of global power, have been relegated to the sidelines. They are the consumers, the workers, the voters, often unaware of the forces shaping their lives or seemingly powerless to challenge them. Yet, within this vast and seemingly inert body, politic lies a sleeping giant, a force capable of shaking the foundations of the established order. When the gap between the powerful and the powerless grows too wide, when injustice festers and the promises of a better future ring hollow, the sleeping giant begins to stir. It starts with a murmur, a ripple of discontent spreading through the streets and squares, through online forums and clandestine meetings. It is the quiet whisper of defiance, the collective yearning for a world that reflects the needs and aspirations of the many, not just the desires of the few. History is replete with examples of these moments of awakening, when the sleeping giant rises from its slumber and demands to be heard. From the French Revolution, where ordinary citizens stormed the Bastille and overthrew a monarchy, to the Indian independence movement, where Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of non-violent resistance brought down an empire, to the Arab Spring uprisings, Where a wave of protests toppled dictators across the Middle East, the power of the people, once unleashed, has proven capable of reshaping the global landscape. Section 2. The power of the people. The power of the people lies not in armies or weapons, but in their collective will, their shared sense of purpose, and their unwavering belief in a better future. It is the power of solidarity, of countless individuals uniting across geographic, cultural, and socio-economic divides to demand change. In an era of globalization, where information travels at the speed of light and social movements transcend national borders, the power of the people has taken on new dimensions. The internet and social media, for all their flaws, have become powerful tools for organizing, mobilizing, and amplifying the voices of the marginalized and the oppressed. From the #MeToo movement, which exposed the pervasiveness of sexual harassment and assault, to the global climate strikes led by young activists demanding action on climate change, to the Black Lives Matter protests that erupted in response to police brutality and systemic racism, the 21st century has witnessed a resurgence of grassroots activism, fueled by a shared sense of urgency and a desire for a more just and equitable world. These movements, while diverse in their aims and tactics, share a common thread, a belief in the power of collective action to challenge the status quo, to hold the powerful accountable, and to create a world that reflects the needs and aspirations of the many, not just the privileged few. The power of awareness. As we navigate global power, we see the market, the state, corporations, and the people. Awareness is the first step towards change. By understanding power structures, we become informed citizens and engaged participants. The future is ours to create with courage and compassion.